knowing murder. Dudes knowing we pay for folding. Homicide without a motive. Some pay him if you own them. We straight from the ghetto. The gutter 911's rolling. Cigarillos, everybody blowing stolen. 85% of the time you kill them, you bound to know them. So be careful where you show them. Play your role like Odom. Cause homies be tripping when you're pitching like Nolan. Got the one here to quit a jigger, freeze them like a pitcher. On my project, good and homies switching my position efficient. Trying to make $1 million while you dudes tripping. Cutting in the fees, too much soda while you mixing. Make it smooth deficient. So how you ripping current vicious. I'm grimy and malicious. Dudes trying to take my position. On the caddy, new edition. Gotta grind with intuition. Keep my secrets the deepest. Stack my paper, complete the mission. Yeah, homie. Popping collars on you snitches. You cats can't drink what we did to get these riches. Late night, so drugs, so dice, no slugs, no lights, no grub, no rights, no love. Yeah, homie. Popping collars on you snitches. You cats can't drink what we did to get these riches. Late night, so drugs, no dice, no slugs, no lights, no grub, no rights, no love. Please don't get us started on the low. There's a couple cowards, we nearly the party. What they we parted, we out scraping the market. Y'all lane, y'all better park at the top. Is what we target. Cause these dudes low, so we hit them like purple rope. Hooked up with the cousin spark on they like, oh no. We got the fofo, lay low, get dough, sell out, get more, dip in a 6-4. From a sucker city thugs, hold like money and drugs. Searching for connection, plugs like George Jefferson, moving up. What? We play the cut, you funny, you getting stuck. The money is getting tough, we hungry, so give it up. Still here, homie, popping collars on you snitches. You cats can't drink what we did to get these riches. Late night, so drugs, so dice, no slugs, no lights, no grub, no rights, no love. Still here, homie, popping can't drink what we did to get these riches. Late night, so drugs, no dice, no slugs, no lights, no grub, no rights, no love.
It's your boy Lucas Keys, one wheel on the track. Skinny, what's up? Check it.
Cause my mama ain't home. I got bitches in the living room getting it on. Bitches in the living room getting it on. Bitches in the living room getting it on. They ain't leaving till 6 in the morning. They ain't leaving till 6 in the morning. They ain't leaving till 6 in the morning. They ain't.
What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? It's your boy Cardinal Red, and we're back for another one. All right, y'all. Give me a second. Let me check the audio. Make sure everything working, and we can get into it. Like we got a few people up in here today. What's good? What's good? Hit that like as y'all come through. Comment, all that good stuff. What is going on? I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on with this. What's good, man? I don't know what's going on with that. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. You know what? I'm just gonna ride with it like this. Since that don't want to work for me right now, I know what's wrong with it. I just don't feel like fixing it just yet. Anyway, what's good with everybody, man? What's good? Let me make sure this audio is working. What's good, man? What's good for your faces? Pause. That's that I use. if you got two different scenes and you got the camera active on both, it freezes one of them up for some reason. Like I used two different scenes, but it freezes one of them up if you don't. There goes the lag now. But anyway, it freezes one of them up if you don't use the active cam thing that they got. I don't know why. But anyway, let me make sure everything gets back rolling here. See what I got to cut off here, man, to get everything. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, it's always something when you're dealing with YouTube, man. It's always something when you're dealing with YouTube. Try to go live on YouTube's like pulling teeth. YouTube is not receiving enough. Like, I don't know why it does this, man. Every other time I try to stream, it's just like a headache to try to do it. YouTube don't want to accept the stream or something's off. It's always something. Anyway, free will burning. I appreciate those comments, man. Appreciate those comments, bro. It should catch up here in a second, I hope. And the stream should be going pretty good here in a second. If anybody left out, had to come back in. What's up? What's up? What's up? Appreciate y'all for stopping through. So, anyway, I wanted to talk about well, we had a conversation the other day about the upcoming fight between Ugas and Spence and how that could potentially affect the Crawford Spence fight. And what's up, everybody? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Definitely, I appreciate that. Jenner Comia, Jenner Comia. I appreciate that. Appreciate that like too. Whoever sent it. Can I get everybody to hit the like button for me, please? Please, one time, hit that like button. So we were talking about how the Ugas Spence fight is going to potentially affect the Crawford Spence fight, and what the split could potentially be after the Ugas fight. Now we got to remember, so right now Spence has two credible belts and one belt that I think nobody really cares about. Crawford has one belt. Ugas has the other belt that's needed to unify all the belts at welterweight. So once Spence gets a hold of that third belt that actually matters, I feel like he has a case for raising the price on Terence Crawford. Now, will that happen, or if is that set in stone yet? No, it's not set in stone. This is all theory at this point. But I do feel like the 60-40 is going to be a legitimate starting point, and I think they've already started there. And I don't feel like there's no reason for Errol Spence to not raise the price if he gets that other belt. I think people are. I think people are gonna quickly see once he gets a hold of that other belt, his negotiating tactics are they're gonna get even more wilder than what he's been doing in the past. And I feel like he has all the reason to do that because basically he has all the negotiating power. Now, whether you think he should do that because he's holding up the fight or not, I mean, just understand that Mayweather's involved in this, Al Heyman's involved in this, and Errol Spence is also involved in this negotiating process. So it's going to be real tricky for Terence Crawford once they get their hand. And believe me, they're going to get their. I hate to count Yordenis Ugas out in that fight because I think he does possess the skill to really give Spence a heck of a fight. But I don't see Spence walking out the building without that belt. I think you about to see Spence lay it all on the line, and he might even. And this is hard for me to say because I feel like if Pacquiao was properly prepared, he would have beaten Yordenis Ugas in a fashion that would have shocked the world. But I think Spence is now going to get that opportunity to do what Pacquiao should have done, and I think he's going to do it in stellar fashion. I think it could be the setup for the Spence Crawford fight. It should be the setup for the Spence Crawford fight, but I don't think it's going to be the setup for the Spence Crawford fight because I do think Errol Spence is going to raise the price on Terence Crawford for that fight. And remember what he brings to the negotiating table. He brings Texas to the negotiating table. Like, he has a huge Texas fan base, okay? He has the pay-per-view numbers are all in his favor. He's going to end up picking the ref, all this other stuff. He bringing Mayweather Promotions to the table. He's bringing PBC to the table. So he has basically all the negotiating power, and all that's going to be he's going to get even more once he gets that third belt. So there's no doubt in my mind it's going to get real ugly in the negotiating room for Terence Crawford. Unless he can pull something off that's just spectacular. Captain Full G made a video talking about Crawford potentially fighting Keith Thurman if Keith Thurman beats. I think he's supposed to fight Barrios next. If he beats Barrios, potentially that could set up a Keith Thurman Terence Crawford fight. And my problem with that is it's a good fight. Keith Thurman only has one loss, so it's not like he's fighting Adrian Broner or somebody who's really irrelevant at this point, you know. And Broner could potentially make a comeback. We don't. I like Broner, you know. I wouldn't buy his fight, but I do like Broner's personality. I want to see him win because I just like his personality. Do I think he's a good enough fighter at this point to fight Terence Crawford? No. As far as Keith Thurman, I feel like his long layoff is gonna set him back. So even if he does fight Terence Crawford, I don't see him giving Terence Crawford a lot of trouble. It would be a good, you know, tune-up fight for Crawford for a potential Spence fight because it would allow him to get in front of somebody who has a big body type, who's a big guy, who's a bigger, you know, a bigger fighter. Errol Spence is slightly bigger than Terence Crawford, so it would give him a chance to get in front of a bigger fighter. Do I think after 3 years, Keith Thurman can come back and give Terence Crawford the type of fight he actually needs going into Errol Spence fight? No, I actually think it's actually the opposite. I think he would knock Keith Thurman out personally because of the time off that Keith Thurman has had. And I think he proved that with the Sean Porter fight. Like you keep feeding him, you keep feeding him these fighters who've taken these long layoffs and are really not prepared for a guy who's been active, you know, for the past 3, 4, 5 years. Terence Crawford really hasn't taken a break. The pandemic, like Canelo, like Canelo Alvarez, hasn't affected Terence Crawford as much as it has other fighters. Like he didn't take like a 2 years off, like you know Pacquiao, like Thurman, like Broner, like a lot of these other fighters did. He stayed active that whole time. Even like Errol Spence. Errol Spence was out of commission not due to the pandemic, but due to his own accord of him crashing his car. So you know, I just feel like that a Thurman fight, it would just be another easy picking for Terence Crawford at this point. To me, Terence Crawford really needs to be challenging himself at this point. You know, if he could set up some type of fight with, I'm freezing. Hold on, y'all. I'm freezing up a little bit. Let me get it a second. If he could set up some type of fight with Josh Taylor, if he could set up some type of fight with, let's see, who else is there? Santos. I think it's Santos that Captain Full G is always talking about. You know, those are the type of fights he needs to be going after. Somebody who can really challenge. I just don't think Keith Thurman is much of a challenge at this point for a guy like Crawford, especially going into Errol Spence fight. I really think he should be eyeing a Josh Taylor fight for his meanwhile fight. So if he can't get Errol Spence in the ring, he needs to be trying to get Josh Taylor to come up and wait and set. But that would be a super fight for him. It would get him in front of a new audience. It would get him in front of a pay-per-view, a wider pay-per-view audience because Josh Taylor's fans, I think actually purchase fights. You know, I think they purchase fights more than even Terence Crawford's fans do. So I think he would sell well if he could get himself into a fight with Josh Taylor. I think he would if he went after Santonio. I think it's Santonio. So whoever the other guy is who's in that WBA tournament, I don't think it would sell well, but it would be a tough fight. I hope Captain Full G jumps in here, man, so he can let me know how to pronounce dude's name properly. But I believe that's his name. But I don't think Terence Crawford has a lot of options right now. I think he missed the golden opportunity with Ugas passing up that Ugas fight and going after Sean Porter. I know people say, well, the WBA blocked the fight. Well, I can't really say that their blocking stuff is a legitimate excuse at this point because they blocked the Spence Ugas fight, but now the Spence Ugas fight is happening again. So I'm like, well, if Terence Crawford maybe would have just waited a few more months, he would have got the Ugas fights. If he would have just waited another month, he would have ended up with the Ugas fight anyway. So uh, I, I think timing for Terence Crawford is really bad a lot of times. I think he ends up in a situation where the fights that he should have taken, somebody else gets them, and then he ends up looking silly because he fought somebody who's really on the downslide of their career. Prototype says Merry Christmas to everybody. It's Spence. Hold on, y'all. Man, I gotta wait when I don't know why it keeps freezing up. Giving this thing all of the juice. It's got all my internet, so I don't know why it's YouTube, man. YouTube. But anyway, prototype. Do you feel like that if I'm freezing up again. Hold on, y'all. Let me go ahead and check my real quick. Make sure I'm giving this thing enough so it'll function correctly. Alright, that's why. Turn that off. Turn that off. Alright, I think I should have fixed it. Turn it on. Alright, y'all. Hopefully that fixed the problem. Because that was getting a little annoying. I gotta remember to cut that on. I switched so much stuff around on my Wi-Fi that sometimes other stuff is sucking up more data than need be. So anyway, it's all right, but I still have to turn it up because on my end it keeps saying it's not getting enough. It's not getting enough data to stream, so I gotta turn the stream. I gotta give it more data for the stream to play correctly on my end, or it looks like it's keeps looking like it's freezing up every 5 seconds. So that should have fixed it though. I had some other stuff prioritized I shouldn't have had prioritized. Anyway, I was asking Prototype. I'm asking anybody in the chat. Free will, if you want to answer that question too. Do y'all feel like if Spence got a link, what type of link? But if Spence wins that fight, do you feel like he has a case to say, hey, I wanted 60-40 in the past. That was based on the amount of titles I had and what else I was bringing to the table. Now I have 4 titles, 3 that mean something. Now I want 65-35. Do you feel like he has an argument for that? Because I definitely feel like it's going to come up. Uncle Phil, you gotta let me know what you mean by I got a link. Are you trying to put a link in the chat? Let me know what type of link it is, and I might let it come through. But everything should be, all my data and stuff is running smooth now. I wish I'd have did that in the first place. I thought about it, and then I was like, man, you know what? It's probably already set. But that's what happens when you don't plan stuff out correctly. Red. Prototype, yeah, that argument most definitely gonna come up. I mean, it's gonna come up as far as Wi-Fi. If you're sharing your You need to limit others and yeah, that's what I was doing, but I forgot to turn everybody else's down. Because when I'm not on here, I prioritize some video game systems and some phones for when I'm live streaming on other stuff, and I forget to turn it off sometimes. So it was messing with it. But yeah, prototype, definitely that argument's gonna come up, man. It's gonna be, and I think Byron Q says salute Crawford. Definitely, you are pound for pound one of the best fighters. He's definitely, and I'm not trying to make it seem like he's not one of the best fighters. The problem with Terence Crawford is he's not, because he's such a nice guy. He's not very marketable. You either have to be extremely talented like Pacquiao. That way, your talent kind of sells itself. And unfortunately, people just not buying pay-per-views and they're not watching boxing as much as they used to. So it's hard for Terence Crawford just to make a name off his talent alone. The reason Errol Spence is so popular is because he's a little more controversial. He hangs out with rappers, which he gets free promotion from these rappers that he hangs out with. They're promoting Errol Spence, the boxer, just by him hanging out with him. He's getting seen by a whole new audience to where Terence Crawford's more of a family man. He's with his family most of the time. He's doing family man stuff, and that's not very marketable to the crowd of people that are watching boxing now. Uh, like Errol Spence gets that rapper fan base because his lifestyle is similar to a rapper's lifestyle. Terence Crawford's lifestyle is not very similar to a rapper's lifestyle. So the people that are rap fans and boxing fans would more likely be Errol Spence fans than would be Terence Crawford fans because they feel like they can relate to his rapper lifestyle more. It's not even about his talent level, really. It's his marketability is bad because of his personality. It's almost like me. My marketability is bad because I don't want to get into the controversial side of YouTube. I could easily just talk about people all day. F this guy, F that channel. This channel sucks. And put their content all within my content as well. And then talk about bad about them. Be what do they call it? Just gossip. Be gossipy about other people. And what do they call this? What do they call it now? The drama. It's like the drama side of YouTube. The boxing drama side of YouTube. And I could easily get into the boxing drama side of stuff and be, a drama channel, but I don't want to get into that. So it's hard for me to market myself to those people who enjoy that type of YouTube. I don't know why people like it, but because it's like the tabloids to me. It's like people lying to y'all all the time. I was like, man, it's so fake. When I started my boxing stuff, I wanted to be more like the news, be giving you truthful stuff. Be doing videos based off of factual stuff and talk about boxing. I didn't want to be on here talking about other channels and going down the petty road to try to grow. I thought we was all like-minded people and people wanted to actually talk boxing, but it seems like people want to talk more about other channels and just be drama channels. Man, I don't know what's going on with this feed today. Normally it's awesome all the way through. I may know how to turn some of these other devices off. I'll cut this thing off. Yeah, that's sucking up some data. But anyway, I didn't get into it to be a drama channel, man. Gerald Field says if he want that fourth belt, then it's 50-50. Uh, Here's the thing. It's really not even up to Errol Spence to make the fight. And I think that's what people are getting it wrong. They keep thinking, well, if he wants what he wants, he's gonna have to come up off something. And that's not the fact. The only person who's gonna have to come up off of something unless Errol Spence loses to Yordenis Ugas. It changes the whole game at that point. But I don't see him losing. I don't see them setting him up to lose in any type of way. The only way Terence Crawford is going to get what he wants is to get the belts from Errol Spence. And there's only one way to get those belts from Errol Spence, and that's to beat Errol Spence. We just gonna keep playing this game forever and ever and ever of negotiating. And Errol Spence knows he's not dumb. He got Mayweather behind him. He has Al Heyman behind him. He has a bunch of smart people behind him. Who's I'm sure if I'm thinking of this stuff, they feeding him this stuff as well. So hold on, let me cut the Wi-Fi off on this thing. They got to be feeding him this stuff as well. So I feel like this: as long as he holds those belts and there's a chance of him getting another belt, there's no way Terence Crawford is getting 50-50 coming to the table with one belt. His only chance to get closer to that 50-50, and he still wouldn't even got 50-50. It would have been more like 55-45 if he would have got that belt off of Ugas. That was his only chance. His chance is over with now of getting any kind of 50-50. There will never, ever, ever, ever be a 50-50 fight within that first fight between Spence and Crawford. There's no way Errol Spence would have to be the biggest dummy in the history of boxing to come up off of that 50-50. He would have to be to come up and say, yeah, I'm going to give you 50-50. Because like I've explained it in the past, if he loses, there is no way Terence Crawford is going to turn around and give him 50-50 in the rematch. Then I would have to turn around and say Terence Crawford's retarded. Like you taking all your negotiating power and just throwing it out the window because you trying to be fair to somebody. Like, at what point is boxing ever been fair for either side? It's always been an A side and a B side. And in the past, that's been based off of the belts. But now that people say the belts don't matter no more, it's got everybody confused. Like, well, just because another guy's popular or because he's undefeated, he somehow is blessed with negotiating power. I mean, yeah, and that's why I hate these undefeated records because it's inflating people's heads. It's making people think that they deserve something that they don't deserve for real. Like, Errol Spence deserves his negotiating power based off the belts that he has. That's it. That should be the end of the conversation. But since people say the belts don't matter, everybody wants to open up these conversations and make them make sense when they don't even make sense. They don't make this. Terence Crawford can be as talented as anybody wants to say he is, and he probably is. But the problem, he only got one belt. He just got one. He only has one belt, so his negotiating power is pretty much zero. Wise words. I appreciate that, Brian Q. Good point. Appreciate that, Phil. Feeds good now. Yeah, it should be coming in a little better. A little bit better. It's not going to be perfect, but it should be a little bit better. Brian Q said, I don't see Earl losing to Ugas either. However, Spence hasn't been as active as Ugas has. Will that long layoff affect Earl Spence's performance in the ring? And here's the thing. I think Ugas, if it wasn't for the circumstances of them both being on PBC, I would say Ugas actually wins that fight. But since they both on PBC, and I hate to put it like this, and this is all speculation. I can't say it's fact, but there is no way Al Heyman, Mayweather, Spence would put him in a position to lose. Whether that's they have to pay Ugas a little bit more to take it on the chin and just not give as much a good of his effort, because that's what I think it is a lot nowadays. I don't think fighters go in to take dives anymore, but I think they get paid certain amounts to not give their full effort anymore. Hey, we need this. This is good for the company. What's best for and this is the problem with these promotional companies and them controlling belts and stuff, is because they can manipulate. It can become the WWF behind the scenes, or the WWE or whatever you want to call it. It becomes wrestling behind the scenes because they can just manipulate everything. Hey, we'll give you this. Of course, he's not going to win. How do you predict Charlo versus Castano? Tell you the truth, I've only seen Charlo fight once. I think I've seen Castano fight once, so I can't really predict it because I haven't watched. I will end up watching it, but I can't predict it. Uh, Based off those two fighters, I just haven't put enough time into those two fighters for real. But because both of those guys are on the same promotional company, it's always going to be an incentive to do what's right for the company. And what's right for the company, because they are trying to set up a mega fight, is for Errol Spence to end up with that belt. And I told y'all this a long time ago when I put out the video, the Pacquiao versus Ugas is a setup video. Like they were setting this up a long time ago. I told y'all Ugas is gonna probably win that fight. It's gonna be a setup. Ugas is gonna win, and Spence is gonna get the belt off of Ugas. I mean, and the reason it has to be that way is because they can pump up the price now. So what's best for the company is for them to get even more money out of that fight. Oh, Kelly Brown, what's good? I ain't seen you in a while, Kelly. What's good? That purse split between Spence and Crawford should be 90-10. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. In all actuality, she's right. In all it should be more like it should be more like 80-20. In all actuality, Terence Crawford is bringing nothing. He's bringing because, and this is the problem with people saying stuff like the belts don't matter. It's a new day. The old matters more than the belt. This is the confusion that people have with these O's and the amounts of money that people are making. It's the belts matter. The belts do matter. The belts matter a lot. The belts matter a whole lot, but people's perception of the belts have changed, and it's come a lot from these boxing YouTube channels that want to push their own narrative and want you to believe everything that they say because it fits their narrative. Oh, the belts don't. Well, this don't matter. That don't matter. The fact that he got more of a pay-per-view number don't matter. The fact that he got more belts than you don't matter. We both got an O, so we the same. That's the problem with the culture that Mayweather created. The old culture is that everybody who thinks they got an O thinks that everybody else who has an O, they on the same level as them. So you could be 1-0 or 2-0 and think you're on the same level as somebody who's 15 or 16-0. Like it don't make sense no more. None of this stuff. Like Errol Spence got all the negotiating power, not based on talent. It's based off the belts that he's accomplished. And when you got guys like Terence Crawford saying, "Well, I don't need Spence. I don't need him. I don't need that fight." What are you talking about? That's the only fight worth making. Nobody wants to keep seeing you fight these garbage men and fighters we know they can't beat you. That's why I think a lot of this stuff is WWF. It's WWF. Like for a fact. Like people who really thought Sean Porter was gonna beat Terence Crawford, I'd be like, man, what are these people thinking? Dude ain't even been in a ring for over a year. That's not even a competitive fight. But the facade is so and the blanket of and the cloud of misclarity over people's eyes is so deep. Like they can't see the real no more. Boxing might as well be the WWF now. Like and what I be thinking, like, damn, people really think like they take nothing away from Keith Thurman, but if Keith Thurman got into a ring in 3 months and tried to fight Terence Crawford, I would have to be crazy to think Keith Thurman's gonna win that fight. And I'm gonna give you the reason why. and I don't know if he still does, but we know Keith Thurman, and I would say this is one of the factors that played into Keith Thurman losing to Pacquiao, is he smokes. And I think people take smoking as a joke now because they feel like in a lot of ways weed is good for you, but smoking weed is actually not good for you. Smoking weed is not good. Smoking anything is not good for anybody when you're doing an endurance sport. You need all the endurance you can muster up in boxing. And if you smoking, guess what? That's killing your endurance. I know a lot of people don't. Well, weed don't. Please, if you're smoking anything, that's killing your endurance. That's just a fact. So I feel like that was one of the factors, and he been sitting around eating and smoking probably for 2-3 years. Like who I don't, and Terence Crawford's been extremely active, not knocking people down and out. Whether you think the people he was fighting can beat him or not, he's been winning. So I don't. There's no way in my mind I feel like Thurman can beat Terence Crawford at this point in any type of fight. And in, yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not saying that consuming it is bad, but consuming it in the wrong way is bad. Consuming anything in the wrong way is bad. Eating it is probably a way better form of consuming it, but people are so used to that hit that they get off of smoking it that it's hard to kick that. Even probably turning it into tea is probably a better way of consuming it than to smoke it. Like Nico says, salute Cardinal Red. Appreciate that, Nico. Nico says Crawford and Errol Spence duck Manny Pacquiao. They don't want to. I mean, that's a known fact. I think that was just like an obvious. This is why I gave Ugas so much more credit. I froze up for a second. So that's why I gave Ugas so much more credit after he beat Pacquiao. I mean, look what he accomplished. He actually beat the guy that those guys were scared to go fight. They didn't even want to get into a ring with him. I mean, Terence Crawford came up with so many excuses for why he didn't want to fight Pacquiao, and they was on the same promotional company for long enough for them to have made that fight, whether Bob Earl blocked it or not. Here's the thing about people saying Bob Earl blocks everything. You don't have to take these fights as a fighter. You can still deny the fight. You're just not gonna get paid. So it's not always Bob Earl blocking something. I know we like to make up a lot of stuff to fit our narrative. We all do it. Let's not lie. We all do it. But it's not always evil old Bob in the background stopping stuff from happening. There were fights, I'm pretty sure, Bob Earl offered Terence Crawford, and there were around that time where he could have fought Pacquiao. He could have said, hey, you know what? I don't need that fight. I want Pacquiao. I don't care if I don't make no money from now until the end of the time. Give me Pacquiao. I'm not fighting anybody else. And that's the problem is people will just say whatever fits their narrative. And half the time it just be a bunch of lies. That crap get old after a while. But half the time it just be a bunch of lies. Kelly says, for years I've been saying that Crawford is bluffing. He doesn't want to fight Spence or any tough fighters. Hey, it's starting to show, and it should be obvious to a lot of people. But I don't want to be. And like I said, I'm not as big of a fan as either one of these guys as I was with Manny Pacquiao. Let's not get this twisted at all. And I'm not really for either one more than the other. Like I said from the beginning, I just feel like Spence, because he does one thing extremely well, it's going to be real difficult for Crawford to beat him at his own game. And believe me, because Crawford doesn't put himself in the right position to win. I.e., he didn't go after a title, so he's not going to have anything in place when the fight is made that could help him win. Spence is going to have a lot of stuff in place. He's going to have the referee in his favor. He's going to have the judges in his favor. He's going to have the venue in his favor. And that's all based off the fact he's got all these belts. If Terence Crawford would have took some harder fights and collected some more championships along the way, it would be a different argument. But that's my whole argument. I mean, it's not really based off why I don't think Crawford's talented. Clarity runs rare. Edibles are better. Definitely agree. 100% better. That's the best thing about Crawford. He's flattens his B and C opponents. Definitely, he does. Definitely, listen. It's weird when it comes to Terence Crawford, man, because he might be better than Errol Spence, but because he hasn't taken the correct path when they actually do fight, like I said the other day, it might end up in a situation like the Maypac fight, to where I actually feel like, to this day, I don't care what nobody says, Manny Pacquiao's still a better fighter. Manny Pacquiao, and I froze again, so I'm gonna repeat this. To this day, I don't care what nobody says. Manny Pacquiao is still a better fighter than Floyd Mayweather Jr. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care if he lost to Mayweather. Mayweather had everything in his favor in that fight. And that's exactly how it's going to be for Errol Spence when he finally does fight Terence Crawford, unless Crawford can somehow magically get those belts from Spence, which ain't going to happen at this point. And the only way for Crawford to become for and I mean, and it kills and this is why I don't think Ugas is gonna walk out that building with no title, is because if he wins, it kills any chance of that Crawford Spence fight, and nobody knows who Ugas is, even though he even beat Pacquiao, and he's still like a C tier fighter, like nobody really knows who he is. So there's no way PBC is gonna risk. They're not gonna risk that. They're not gonna risk Ugas getting those belts and them having to promote Yordenis Ugas, who nobody wants to see Ugas fight Crawford. Really, he already beat him, number one. So I don't think PBC is looking to be in the Ugas promotional business anytime soon. They didn't even want to promote the Pacquiao fight in the right way. They rushed that so quick. That just should let you know that it was all set up from the beginning. Nikki O says, yeah, but usually the guy with all the excuses on why the fight don't happen is the reason fights don't happen. And he used an expletive at the that I'm not gonna use at the moment. But listen, the guy with all the excuses, they both got excuses. But the funny thing about it to me is, I think Errol Spence is doing this as a joke. I don't think none of this is really serious. I don't think he's taking none of this stuff serious, because he knows what he wants at the end of the day, and he knows there's really no way for Terence Crawford to raise his stock. I mean, listen to what I just said. Okay, Terence Crawford wants a bigger percentage of the purse, right? The only way for him to get bigger percentage of the purse would be to raise his numbers in pay-per-view past Errol Spence, or to get them titles. He's not getting the titles. Who's he going to fight to raise his pay-per-view numbers up past Errol Spence? There's really nobody left, unless he somehow gets a fight with Josh Taylor or goes and fights Canelo Alvarez. There's nobody left at 147. The only option, and I agree with Caps, Keith Thurman does have a nice fan base. He could go fight Keith Thurman and probably do some okay numbers, but it's not going to raise his numbers to the point where they need to be for him to command a 50-50 split. That's nothing else he can do really, and I think Spence knows this. He knows, like, hey, all I have to do is just keep saying goofy stuff. He's never going to accept it, and Spence don't care. I don't think he cares really at the end of the day if he gets that belt from Crawford, because I think he feels like at the end of the day I'm already winning anyway. I'm getting the most money. I got the bigger fan base. At the end of the day, even if I never do get the Crawford fight, I can get this belt from Ugas, and I can go fight a Charlo and get a big old bag of money, win or lose. He's not gonna get stripped of the belts, and even if he loses, he'll still have them titles at 147. So he can still go back down and play chicken with Terence Crawford until he somehow loses at 147. This is the reason why I say, hey, it's looking all bad for Terence Crawford. All right, Kelly says, you're right, Cardinal. Bud could have insisted on fighting Pacquiao when he could have. Now people make all the excuses in the world. They want to blame Bob Arum is the perfect scapegoat. Everybody whenever they want to say something that fits their narrative, they got to do with Top Rank. You just dangle Bob Arum out there and blame him. But Crawford, I'm pretty sure, had enough money at that point where he could have been like, man, I don't want no more of these bum fights. We got a superstar sitting right here. I know I can beat him. Stop feeding me these bum fights and give me the fight I want. I'm not taking no more of your bum fights until I get Pacquiao. I'll take all the bum fights you give me if you let me fight Pacquiao. But you never ever heard Terence Crawford say that. What you hear him say? Bob stopped the fight. Even Bob Arum said it. Well, I stopped because he just wanna. He don't care. Bob Arum will say anything. Y'all should know that by now. He'll say anything. He said that Terence Crawford would beat all the top welterweights in one night. You can line them up. He'll beat them all. Like I don't. The whole argument has become silly. Silly. Boxing talk is really silly at this point, man. Free Willie Burner says, "Are you biased towards last minute replacement fighter when they lose?" It's not even the winner or the loser that's the argument. It's the fact that they would even allow something to be done that quickly. It's not. It doesn't make for a good fight. Somebody's gonna have a bad night because they're not properly prepared for what you're throwing them into. There should never be a fight ever made on a week's notice because somebody's going to end up getting done real dirty. Whether it's the guy who's coming in who's not prepared for the guy who is prepared, or if it's the fighter who's prepared for somebody else that's getting thrown in there against a fighter who's period. It should at least be a month. At least a month. At least a month. That every fight should have at least. Here we go again. All right, so I think it came back. Stream the data sucks today. So it should be at least a month. You should have at least a month to prepare for any fight. I don't care, at least a month. If a fight has to be canceled, moving it out a week is not enough time to prepare for anybody. You should at least give that fighter a month to think of a game plan, a month to retrain, and then a month to not a month, but give them a month, at least a month, 4 weeks to come up with a game plan to train, retrain, and then 4 weeks for the promotion of the fight. They're not even promoting these fights right. Like half the people didn't even know who the hell Ugas was. And that sucks for Ugas because Ugas did what a lot of people thought he couldn't do, and he deserves a lot more credit for what he did. But because they didn't promote the fight right, a lot of people still don't even know who the hell Ugas. They think Manny Pacquiao got beat by a nobody fighter, like somebody that nobody knows who this guy is. And that's really not what happened. Ugas is he's a great fighter. People in America just don't know him because he's not promoted in America. But you gotta be promoted over here for anybody to take you seriously. If Nick says if Crawford wants the fight Cardinal Red, he will accept the 70-30 split. And that's my point, man. Is listen, if Crawford is as good as he says he is, and Bob Earl got so much confidence in him, or had so much confidence in him, to where he was saying he would beat every welterweight in one night. What's so bad about a 60-40 split? Like, you're that good to where you can beat all of these guys in the same night, but you're somehow worried about a 60-40 split. You're not thinking about the fact that you're that good, and when you beat them, how much money you're going to get in the rematch. You're worried about that first fight for a reason. You're worried about getting everything you can out of that first fight for a reason. And that reason has to be doubt that you can beat them. Otherwise, if you're that good, what the is wrong with a 60-40 split? The fight should have been made. Should have been made. Oh, I totally agree with what Kelly's saying. Like, he knows the same way he knew with Pacquiao. There's a chance I might lose in that fight, and I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it right now. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it. Come up with any excuse you can in the book, but I don't want to risk it. And he's kind of doing the same thing with Spence. And for anybody to say Spence is holding up the fight, man, you just wrong. That in no way can the A side be holding up the fight. It's not up to the A side to bring his price down to make the fight. His price is set where it's set at for a reason, and it's because he deserves the price to be set there. So the only person who could be holding up the fight is the B side of the fight. The guy who don't want to accept the money that he's getting for the fight. Well, the money shouldn't even matter. And I'm going to go back to this again. George Kambosos is the perfect example. George Kambosos got the smaller purse because he and didn't care he was getting the smaller purse because his whole objective was to whoop Teofimo's ass. And when I whoop his ass, I got all the belts. So I got all, like, he didn't care about the money. I'm gonna whoop his ass, and then y'all gotta respect me. It's like the complete opposite with Terence Crawford. He talks all this shit in the, I don't even cuss, but he talk all the shit in the world, but he talk all the shit in the world, and you claim to be the baddest motherfucker out there, but you're complaining over 10% of a fucking purse. Are we serious? And you got millions of people out here that's hyping you off this excuse that really feel like this is a legitimate excuse. I'm like, come on with the BS. Personally, I don't care if people like it or not. I don't really care if you like it or not. It is what it is. At the end of the day, it's not up to Errol Spence to say I'm gonna come down off my price because I earned my price. The only person holding this fight up is Terence Crawford, not accepting the fact that he's the B side in something and wants a higher price, a higher purse because you know you might lose. So you're trying to get everything you can because the actual factual is if I feel like if Errol Spence beats him, he ain't gonna give Terence Crawford a rematch. If Errol Spence wins that first, ain't gonna be no rematch. Because if they done went through all this, he gonna get the Mayweather treatment. Same way Mayweather did Pacquiao. No, ain't gonna be no rematch. A narrative. I don't care if you like me or not. I like what I'm saying. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. Hey, hold on, y'all. I gotta wait it out. All right, y'all. So I up to itself again. But anyway, hold on, y'all. Hold on, y'all. Keeps going in and out again. So we're about at an hour. Let me finish up these comments. But like I said, man, personally, this is not personal. I'm not against either one of these guys. I'm just like, man, let's be real about this. Let's just keep it real, 100% real. Like, what? I don't see why people are mad at Errol Spence over this purse split thing. I really don't. I don't see why people are not looking at it for what it really is. The only person holding this fight up is Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford has none of the negotiating power, but wants all the money, and it's almost laughable. To me, it's almost laughable. I mean, you basically fought a bunch of nobody. You fought some good names, but they all were basically past their prime when you beat them. Let's just be real. And the amount of money that you want for that fight is not realistic. It's not realistic based off the fact of what Spence has accomplished at 147 pounds. It's just not realistic. And any excuse you make is just that. It's just an excuse. It's just an excuse. That's it. At the end of that's it, man. Kelly Brown said, hold on. Nick says, okay, I read that one. Kelly Brown says, Crawford should thank Bob for safety, taking him to a 30-0 ring record, making him a millionaire without taking any risk. Bob Arum's a genius. In boxing, he's a genius. You can't have this type of longevity without being, you know, without doing something right. As much as I hate Bob Arum for what he did to Pacquiao and other fighters, he's a genius when it comes to promotion and marketing fighters. It's what he does. You know what I'm saying? And whether it was, a collective effort between those two, or it was one of them, you know, the fights we want to see him in. And I would have to say basically the same thing for Spence, but Spence beat Crawford. He beat him to the end of the rainbow. And the end of the rainbow was collecting more titles. He collected more titles than what Crawford did. Give him his props. Give Spence the money he needs. Just go beat him. Do what George Kambosa did. Go beat him, take his titles, and the and everything flips. Everything flips at that point. But I mean, there's obviously a reason he hasn't went down this road yet. And we can make all the excuses you want to. You can do all the excuses you want to make. But it's at the end of the day, it's still an excuse. It is what it is. Ugas beat Crawford in the amateurs, and hey, that's a whole nother argument. I don't want to tackle right now. I think I've talked about that one in the past, and that's the bad thing. That's another bad thing about it. And that's why I feel like the Sean Porter thing was an excuse. That was another excuse. Any blind boxing fan could have seen you shouldn't have been going after Sean Porter. You should have been going after Ugas. Spence was hurt. He couldn't get that fight. Ugas just beat the guy you claim that you've been wanting to fight forever. Like it should have been a It should have been a no-brainer. But hey, I'm a hater. You call me a hater. I'm gonna end up being called a Crawford hater anyway. Just call me a hater. Just say I'm hating on Crawford because I don't agree. I don't agree with the excuses he keeps coming up with. Ain't live. What's good? See, here's the ring. The thing. Crawford fans just want to see the fight, while y'all Spence fans is running with the 60-40. Spence, his fans ain't never do this with any other fighter except for Crawford. Listen. All these other fights are not super fights. There's a reason he's not going to come off of that 60-40. We are talking about millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. If and when this fight comes into fruition. Okay, millions. So that 10% that he's holding is millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And that's why he don't want to come off of that. Like this is millions of dollars we talking about. It really has nothing to do with us fans.